Well, I am super excited to be here with Susanne Taylor today. We get to have a little chat about our upcoming conference in Lecce, Italy, with Cultural Global Labs. And the work that you do, Susanne, is fascinating to me with open space. Tell us a little bit about your story, your background, what brought you into this work, and what got you to Munich, Germany.
So my mother's Austrian, my dad's American, and I grew up in Alaska between Europe and the US, and had an opportunity to spend a little time in Asia and ended up in the intercultural field, lived in Portland. Uh, that's where I met Antimo and actually quite a number of the other session hosts. And it just naturally led me to wanting to live outside of the US. So Munich was a great place to land. And I continued doing my intercultural work here, but it slowly led into lots of work in international companies that needed support with teams and leadership development and change initiatives. And that led me to coaching. And the consistent piece was always connecting people and helping them communicate. And I have a twin, and she got into sort of software development agility work and said, "Hey, Susanne, these people need the stuff that you have." So that was about 3 years ago, and a little over half a year ago, I started working intensely, almost full time, with a really nice startup here in Munich as their agile coach and organizational faculty lead. Basically, it just means I'm doing the same thing I did before.
So working for a software development company, working in the private sector, but taking all this multicultural work that you've done in the past and bringing it to your current day job, if you will.
Yes, and I have the advantage that they're really future of work oriented. So I work with them 4 days a week, and the other one day of the week or hours that I choose, I can still do my independent coaching, and I can still go work with independent clients and other organizations. And if I learn something interesting or meet contacts, I bring them back with me.
Fantastic. You shared when we were chatting earlier about, like, I think you said a 15-year history with Antimo. Talk a little bit about your background, getting to know him, and how you kind of came to be such a kindred spirit with him.
So Antimo and I were always the first ones to show up in the Intercultural Communication Institute. I worked for CTAR with Peggy Push, and we would always see each other and laugh because I would be like, "He's the Italian and he's here at 8 a.m. And a nice way to bust those stereotypes. And we saw that we both had these ideas about how we wanted to help people build their skills around communication and intercultural awareness. And we had two very different approaches and styles that were really complementary. And so we started designing our own workshops and independently offering them, and just saw we had such a fun dynamic. And when I moved 12 years ago to Munich, we pretty much promised each other we would find a way to kind of bring this idea of connecting the world and helping people to really leverage their knowledge across sort of globally. And we tried a couple of things, but right timing, and seems like the right timing is now.
Well, it's really interesting. You know, we deliberately chose the name Cultural Global Labs, and to me, the critical word is well, they're all three important, but labs is really kind of exciting because it's the idea of taking these principles and these concepts and putting them to actual practice while engaged at the conference, in the field, out in the streets of Lecce, Italy, or in an environment that you're going to be presenting there with the open space meetings concept. I don't know if everyone watching this will be as familiar with it as I've tried to become, and certainly as you and Antimo are, but describe a little bit about the open space concept and the work you'll be doing in Lecce with participants.
So I think I'm going to start with what we're hoping to do in Lecce, and then work my way back. So the idea is that you've got people going into very separate, not tracks, but sort of separate in sessions that they'll be
Workshops.
doing some, yeah, workshops where they'll be doing some really intense learning, deep learning on a topic. However, they won't necessarily have a chance to be with each other in a space or a time where they can see where their learnings will overlap with each other.
Mm.
And um, what open space allows you to do, and why I offered it to Antimo and he was very excited about the idea, was that open space says, it invites people in, creates a safe space for them to be vulnerable and connect and ask for or offer different kinds of support, help, resources. And I have to say, it's kind of magical because the only thing you truly plan is the framework. You say, here's a theme, and the theme I think is going to emerge. It's going to be, what's the thing that keeps coming up in people's conversations? It could be something that we decide at the very beginning has emerged based on the questions or concerns that most people have from all the workshops that overlap. So that'll be the framework. And with that invitation, then everybody will be able to come and say, yeah, so if the invitation or the framework is around deeper connection across time and space in a fast moving world. This is total, I'm making this up. What can I offer? Is there some interesting knowledge that I have, or a story that I could tell that would be an interesting session? Or actually, there's a question that I seem to hear that I met somebody over lunch and they have the same question about, modern leadership. So I think I want to offer a session about having a dialogue around modern leadership.
Mm.
And the beauty of it is that there are 4 principles that everybody will agree to in the space. And one is, whenever it starts, it starts.
Which I love
Whenever
that
it
one.
ends, it ends. Whoever shows up are the right people. And whatever happens is the only thing that could have. So what those principles do is create a fluid space for people to take responsibility for their own learning. And there's only one rule, which is, it's called, well, it's a law, actually. It's not a rule, it's a law. The law of 2 feet. And the intention is to respectfully remind people that they're adults and that they need to take ownership for their learning. So if the law is, if you're in a session where you are not learning or contributing, you need to use your 2 feet to take you to someplace where you will.
As my dad used to say, you vote with your feet. And if
Yes.
it's not meaningful for you, you vote with your feet, not disrespectfully, not with disregard for those who are learning, but you just opt out.
Yeah. And it's a very intentional, transparent way. And it becomes an agreement between everyone. It's like, if someone's leaving my session, it's not taken personally, and it's not meant to be disrespectful. It's them saying, I could contribute someplace more meaningfully,
For
or
myself and for others.
exactly. So in the end, you're more fully creating a richer environment for everybody because you're taking responsibility.
It's an overused word, but it's really a holistic approach to deriving benefit from meetings. And the truth is, at least in my experience, you've put structure around the only way learning really works anyway. Because if you're in a conference and you're forced to be there, you have to take notes, you have to report back to a supervisor about the things you learned, or whatever the motivations are that are maybe more typical and more corporate, learning doesn't really happen in a significant way. And the best way for learning to happen is exactly in the way in which you describe. We just don't always have that kind of intention behind our meetings, which is one of the things I'm so excited about experiencing.
Yes. So my hope is that even though I won't be in any of the workshops beforehand, I'll be there early. I'll be connecting with people, listening, observing, and um, asking, what are people interested in, and maybe planting seeds for ideas so that those who've never experienced open space will have a little bit of courage, will have the seed of an idea that they'll feel brave enough to offer in the marketplace. So
Well, you and I talked a little bit about our 5 pillars, which I won't go into great detail on, but the final of our 5 pillars is growth. And I'm really excited for this piece because we did talk about cultural global labs, and this is kind of the lab part. You're not only going to a conference, you're not only going to go to workshops and learn and be experiencing really cool content and meeting other really fascinating people, but while at the conference, through open space and through your facilitation, you get to actually put into practice the principles and concept of connecting with other humans immediately. And then ideally, because of growth, you go home with better tools and resources to be a change agent in the world in which you live, whether that's whether you're a professor in a collegiate environment or in the academic world, or you're in the private sector as an HR manager, or whatever application you have. You get to take the experience and the actual application of that experience, and then you get to bring all that home with you. And I couldn't be more excited for that.
yes, and the guarantee is that there will be surprises.
Yes, I suppose so. Well, I am very much looking forward to meeting you in person. It's funny, we both talked about our affinity for Zoom and its usefulness as a tool. And by the way, in the midst of current global concerns, Zoom stock is going like this right now. Anything that can connect people without putting us in sneezing rooms seems to be very popular. But while I love Zoom and think it's a great facilitator, I think there is no replacement for what we're going to experience in Lecce with the facilitation that you're going to provide through open space and the experience of connecting with one another on a very human level.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is where the vulnerability piece will come into place. People will need to be brave and be vulnerable enough to trust themselves to get up and offer a session, and also accept if nobody comes, it means that that's maybe not the right thing to happen right now. So they're also
And it's
welcome to
okay.
go to another session, and it's also okay.
Yeah.
I guess there are two things that I didn't mention. There are sort of these other roles that are accepted. One is called the bumblebee. And these are people who go from session to session to session, cross-pollinating.
Ah,
So they're often, they'll just enter a session and they'll listen and hear a few things and they'll go, interesting. And then they'll go, well, I think it's connected to that session. And they'll say, oh, I just heard blah, blah, blah. And then they'll leave that session and go to another session. So they may go to 3 sessions in, 2 time blocks. But what they're doing is they're taking their learning and cross-pollinating.
wow. Fascinating.
And then the second role is a butterfly. Then a butterfly basically says, I don't think I have the energy to go to any of these sessions. I'm going to sit over here in this chair and look pretty. And what happens is, right, somebody will see a butterfly and they'll wander over there and just sit next to them and have a very lovely, surprising, enriching, and connecting conversation that's exactly what they needed. They needed a one-on-one conversation with someone.
Beautiful. Well, we tend to focus globally on our differences, and that tends to create an awful lot of problems for human interaction. But the truth of the matter is, we are more connected by our humanity than we are separated by our difference, whether that's ethnicity or skin color or language or gender or anything else. We are far more connected by our DNA in that we are humans. And when we take the time to be vulnerable with empathy, it gives us a chance to connect. And I am super excited to experience open space and get to know you and find another person who resonates with our friend Antimo and the work that he's doing and his desire to push this forward to connect the world in a more significant way. Suzanne, thank you very much for your time and for sharing a little bit about your work. And if it's okay with you, we might revisit with you one more time before the conference actually starts and get a little bit of a teaser maybe about some of the things you anticipate for our time together in Lecce.
Yeah, I would love that. I'm super excited. And not only is Lecce gorgeous, but um, I don't think that there's anything like this happening in the world right now, and it's really needed. So there are
Hey,
conferences, but I tell you, there's something magical about having sometimes less structure and allowing people to be more, take more ownership in what they need and
well,
going and just giving them the space to go get it.
that's a powerful statement, and I'm really glad you shared that because it always sounds self-serving when the people putting on the conference say that. But we don't claim to be better than anybody else. In fact, I love the work that's going on in other conferences all over the world. We're just going to try to do something a little bit different, and I hope that people will take a hard look at it as something unique and a different approach to the way we interact at an event like a conference.
Yeah, can't wait.
Well, thank you again, Suzanne. I look forward to chatting with you further.
Thanks, Kirk.
We'll talk again soon.
Okay, bye.